Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads. This is take 2 of trying to record my emotions on what I saw last night in Los Angeles. And if my internet gives me problems again, I'm going to sue Xfinity because they are hot garbage. What else is hot garbage? Jose Alvarado. What else is hot garbage? The fact that Joe Girardi actually left him in the ball game as long as he did. That's a fireable offense. If I'm Dave Dombrowski watching him go through batter 1, batter 2, batter 3, yo, Joe, what are you doing? Do you want this job? Do you want to get paid? Do you still want to manage in Major League Baseball? Because it was a disaster what he went through. And normally I'm not the one to point out the manager and say that's exactly where it all went wrong based off of one decision. But there's no doubt about it that that was so foolish and so outrageous that there's no way around it. I mean, that was absolutely pathetic from your manager. Luckily enough, the Phillies were able to get an early lead on Tyler Anderson and explode early on with Bryce Harper. They were able to get some things going with Kyle Schwarber. They were able to get things going with Camargo hitting a bomb to left field. So you get a nice lead. My issue is this squad keeps giving up the lead whenever they're there. Right here they are with a nice victory, so it seems, in L.A. Game 1, a great start. And then by the skin of your teeth, you're winning because of a wild pitch in the ninth. Odubel Herrera, beautiful bunt. Alec Boehm, fascinating at bat. Rhys Hoskins gets a hit in there as well. Bryce Harper gets a sac fly. So you work your way back to a 9-7 lead after such a painful way of losing the lead, just like you saw against the Mets. Here's your positive, because you know I like to try and tie in some sort of angle with that direction, and here's what we have. We saw a situation just a few games ago where, poof, it all evaporated right in the face of all of us, where you lose to the Mets, and it seemed like you had no idea. You saw 9,000 ghosts was the facial expression from everybody as they were walking off of the field. And when they did their clubhouse interactions with the media, it was a disaster. Knowing Bryce Harper said something to the squad, and knowing he stepped up in that game 1 of the doubleheader in that same Mets series with a homer off Scherzer and another RBI, he's leading the team again by hitting a big-time homer and getting 3 RBI in this one. And you found a way to grind it out even through the struggle and win, where in the previous outing, you lost. So was there something to be said about learning from that previous horrible moment? I think there's something to it, but what we need to do is calm down even putting yourself in that position, because good teams do not do it to the level that they're doing it right now. The fact that it's happening so aggressively and so frequently, it seems it's consistent at this point. It needs to stop. Now, Joe Girardi cannot be so dumb and keep Alvarado in there. That is manager 101 mistake to keep him in as long as he did. And then afterwards, when he got asked about it, he was talking in circles and he had no idea what was coming out of his mouth, talking about, well, we liked his matchups. Well, what matchups? The ones where he was getting rocked? The ones where he was doing a horrible job? The ones where he looked atrocious? What matchups did you like out of Jose Alvarado that made you feel obligated to keep him in those moments and beg and pray that he'd be able to slice and dice his way out of there? It was a mess. I mean, you cannot allow one person to blow up that horrifically to the point where he went 1/3 of an inning, allowed 5 hits, 4 earned runs, and walked a batter. I mean, seriously, we can't even get enjoyable victories where at some point we have to then pick apart why it got so ugly and why they won the way that they did. Why were they in that position anyway after having a nice start? Look, after Wheeler allowed a 2-run double or 2 runs there when they were up big and it became 7-3, okay, that stuff happens. I thought Wheeler in his 5 1/3, based off the fact that he was coming off of the COVID protocol stuff, thought he looked really sharp. Great velocity. He had some wicked off speed in there. That was really strong Zach Wheeler. And when you look at how fast his fastball was, I mean, we're starting to see the Zach Wheeler that we're going to need for a long time here during the big stretches of the regular season. Now that basketball's over, we shift pretty quickly here to baseball season. And now it's on Zach Wheeler to be the purest form of Zach Wheeler that we desperately need, which is fantastic that we're starting to kind of see it shape up into fruition here. So, whatever. It's 7-3. That stuff happens. A 7-3 lead, even with one of the most powerful offenses in baseball, it's got to look better than it did. And it really was one man who kind of lost it for you there. Even though they still won, in that moment, he lost it for you there. And Joe's got to recognize way sooner it's time to look in another direction. I mean, it's inexcusable. There's no way in hell that anyone can honestly assess that and think we're just going to keep him in the game. That is a level of fireable decisions because it's moronic, because there's zero logic behind it. Sometimes there's logic behind a decision that doesn't pan out. Sometimes there's logic behind a decision where there's 35% hit rate, a 35% success rate, where you look at the 65 and go, well, Joe, it's the odds are against you, but even in those circumstances, there's still a 35% chance where it could benefit you. This one, there was a 0, and I mean 0% chance of a success rate. So that is why it's so damn brutal, and it makes me lose sleep at night just trying to wonder how one man can analyze a baseball man who was a damn catcher who you would think would have a feel in those outings of it ain't it. He doesn't have it. But yet another batter comes up to the plate. Another batter comes up to the plate. The Dodgers are going to score runs, but it didn't need to look the way that it did. Look, I'm not demanding the Phillies, knowing that they've had bullpen problems in the past, and I do feel that they are in a better position now than they were in previous seasons. I'm not going to demand them to shut down the Dodgers and have Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman at the top of their lineup do what they did. All right, look at Trey Turner. You look at Smith. These guys can rake for sure. So there's going to be times where they do crack back into it. They do fight back. They crawl back. There's a reason why that they are a World Series favorite. But once again, it doesn't have to be to the atrocious level that we saw. You even had to squeak it out in the ninth where Corey Knebel, you see bases loaded, no outs, but then there's a pop-up, a pop-up, a pop-up. Now, Cody Bellinger was swinging out of his damn shoes at some high pitches out of the zone that realistically could have been a ball, a couple balls, right? I think there were 3 balls up high, and he was swinging, trying to, crush it, and it took him out of rhythm, I thought, in that at-bat. But there was also, in the 8th inning, I thought the Dodgers kind of took themselves out of it where they were trying to go home on a play to Rhys Hoskins over at first base. Rhys makes a nice read on it, flips it to JT Realmuto. They were uber aggressive, way too aggressive in that moment where they were smelling blood. I think they were forcing something that wasn't there, and who knows, that could have been the difference in them having a very wild victory or not. I'll take it, and I like the heads-up play by Rhys Hoskins. And I got into a huge debate with one of my buddies about leading off Rhys Hoskins and being upset with Joe Girardi for going down that path. I got no issues with them trying that. Look, Kyle Schwarber was not working at the leadoff spot. By the way, he moves back in the lineup, and he gets 2 RBI on the day. That's his comfort zone. That's where he needs to sit. So, knowing you had to pull the plug on him at the leadoff position, someone else would have to slide in. Now, who would that be? I'm sure people are screaming Gene Segura, and you could live with that. I don't think that that's a long-term option. That's a great option. I'm not telling you I love Rhys Hoskins, but for a one-game scenario, to scream and bitch about that when they still won the game and their offense put up plenty of runs. And oh, by the way, he did have a massive hit there late after Odubel's phenomenal bunt. And he did get himself in a position for this team to have a bit of a spark. Does that happen if Kyle Schwarber's hitting leadoff and giving you an 0 for 5 day where he's having 3 strikeouts? I don't know. I mean, does he have the same day that he had today if he was hitting leadoff compared to deeper in the lineup? I don't know. I can't see the future. I don't have the vision in my brain power. But to act as if it was some egregious thing, no, we got to get Schwarber out of there. And Rhys has been hitting. They're trying different things. He's not conventional. You don't have a conventional leadoff guy. That's the issue we're trying to point out here. So I don't have a problem with trying things out and giving it a whirl. It is what it is. There's no obvious choice. Don't sit here today and say that there's an obvious choice that they're just blatantly missing out on in your leadoff position. Your best might be Segura. It's not blatantly obvious that he's a no-brainer lock to be leading off every day. I do like Alec Boehm in the 2-hole. That might be my 9th time expressing that. I really do like Boehm. And that walk that he earned was magnificent. Remember a few games back, more than a few games back at this point, but Rhys Hoskins, this might have been against the Mets in one of the earlier series, where he struck out bottom half of the plate, and he looked over at the umpire like, dude, that was low. And it was, by a hair. But the reaction was, you have to swing at that because it's too close to take. And my counter was, even though I acknowledge what you're saying, there's something to be said about the finest lines and the finest details in Major League Baseball that makes a good eye and a tough pitch to hold off on that much different. Like, we're talking about Major League Baseball hitters and the fact that, 1 inch or 1/2 of an inch and laying off a pitch because they notice where the ball is falling in on the plane, that 1/2 inch is so massive on that decision making. That inside corner pitch that he laid off was, wow, it was unbelievable. But that's what hitters do when they have that good eye to hold off on that pitch. He earns a walk, and not only did Odubel have a great bunt there, but that at bat by Alec Boehm was so massive for them to take the lead again. We did hear some news about Bryce Harper, as in that moment he had the sac fly to give the Phillies a 2-run lead again. I am very concerned. I am extremely concerned with this UCL stuff, and I don't know if he's ever going to play right field again this year, which stings for sure because you were not constructed to do that. And you have Nick Castellanos and Schwarber playing your corner outfields. It's just not ideal whatsoever. Not the reasons why you're winning or losing a ton of baseball games right now at this current point. There are a few moments that I do feel that Bryce Harper gets there if it's not Castellanos, or there's a better throw at the plate if it's not Castellanos. It hasn't been life or death, but if you're talking about over 162, you have to DH Bryce Harper every day, and you don't have the ability to get fancy with that DH spot as a unique position to get JT Realmuto's bat in the lineup while you get Stubbs behind the plate for an off day behind the dish, and you can find ways to get guys, an off day in the field but still play with their bat in the lineup. That stuff matters over 162 for rest days and things of that nature, and it's just something you're going to have to monitor, and it's another addition to the Joe Girardi jumble that he's going to have to manage. And we know that he's limited in what he brings to the table as a whole at times, as I've already alluded to with this Jose Alvarado mess. So now we have to add more to his plate. Well, that could be scary, because there are times where I think to myself, I don't know how any baseball man or baseball woman or anyone that studied the game of baseball and has been involved in the game of baseball for as long as Joe Girardi has can honestly analyze a current scenario and then come up with what he felt was right in that quick decision-making moment. It is a horrific, horrific thing. Yeah, so I loved Wheeler. I mean, Camargo going in there and hitting you a shot was awesome. Segura on the bases. You just had so much life and so much positivity early on there as you were getting to Tyler Anderson, and it was an outstanding watch to the point where your heart is broken because the Sixers fell flat on their face, and you open up a series against the Dodgers after winning a series against the Seattle Mariners. Just a really nice start to the road trip where the team starts to be creating something. There seems to be a little more of a sense of urgency, but they have to stop the collapsing. And I thought during the broadcast when Bryce Harper was interviewed by Tom McCarthy and Ben Davis after the game, he made it very clear as he was standing there with the microphone on. And, it was sort of he said something about, we got to stop doing this. We can't keep putting ourselves in this position where we're giving up those leads. And Tom and Ben were sort of laughing a little bit because it was somewhat of like come on, we can't keep doing this, guys, right? But then he got serious. He switched that flip big time. He's like, no, I'm serious. Teams that win a World Series do not do this. And just the way that he reflected on what just happened out there, it tells you a lot about where Bryce Harper is. I think that there's just a whole new life to him now, a comfortability factor of where he is with this franchise and where he needs to be vocally. And this isn't my first time referencing that either, but I think that is such a key detail to Bryce Harper, the player, because it's this added layer to him. He was already magnificent. He was always fantastic. He always played the game the right way. And when he put his cleats on and approached the diamond, when it was a 7 o'clock start, a 1 o'clock start, a 4 o'clock start, it doesn't matter. Whenever his feet touch that diamond, he's ready to play and give you everything he has. But there has been this elevated Bryce Harper, and we need that. We need some noise in that room to make sure that everybody's focused and understanding that this start to the season is not where we need to be. And if we're going to turn things around, our identity and our life and our style to the game has to go in a new direction. And he's the one out there with the torn UCL, giving you RBI and knocking in runs and giving you the lead and hitting the long ball. And it goes a long way when you're the one stressing everything while looking everyone in the eyes and making those type of comments publicly, and then you're also backing it up and showing it on the field too. It just has that even more of a bonus, and I'm proud of him doing it, and this team has to continue. Look, a 2-2 series split, you never want to go into series and be satisfied if you don't come out winning, taking 2 of 3 or taking 3 of 4. Kershaw on the bump tonight at 10 o'clock on a Friday night baseball night with a lot of NHL playoffs in action. Saturday, you got a bunch of Game 7s in the NHL first round, which is going to be massive and super fun and enjoyable. But if you go 2-2 and find a way to win one more of these, so you win against Seattle and go 2-2, I'll take that as a massive victory on this road trip, considering where you were. And let's just see this sense of urgency start to snowball. I'm looking for a big snowball effect if you're at the starting point and you start to make that snowman. You gotta get that ball rolling a little bit for it to be compacted and go from there. So that's really where I'm at. LG comments in here. It says, unfortunately, this is how the Phillies win games. Make it a softball game and win 9-7. Wheeler pitched great, and then the bullpen struggles. It is going to get somebody traded. What does that mean? It's going to get somebody traded. What does that mean? I don't even know what that means. When they're going to make a move, it's going to be at the deadline, and Dave Dombrowski makes moves at the deadline to add to the team. I don't know what that means. Every team, no matter if you're in position with a great team or not, makes moves at the deadline and trades for people. So you kind of lost me there, LG, where even if you're the Dodgers are going to add something at the trade deadline. Even if you're the New York Yankees, the Yankees are going to add something at the deadline. You're not just going to trade a piece if you're battling for a playoff spot, even if it's a wild card spot, just because you're trading. But no, you're going to add to your team. You're going to add to your team and try and make a push. I don't know if we're on the same wavelength here and on the same page whatsoever. I think that that's a little bit crazy. Before we continue here, though, we do have a new partner, and it's one that we've been wanting for a long time now, Freestone Farm CBD. It's my favorite CBD brand because they farm it themselves with all organic inputs. I've tried a lot of different brands, but honestly, Freestone Farm CBD has been amazing for me, and I personally like using it after working out and when I go to bed. I've been sleeping way better at night. What's even more exciting, our friends at Freestone Farms just unveiled an all-new menu. Just check out their tropical tasting Bayox that clocks in at 24.1% CBD. All their premium hemp flower is grown on their Garden State farm with all organic inputs and IPM. Absolutely nothing synthetic from farm to jar. On top of that, you can use promo code BROADS at checkout for 20% off. 20% off. The link is down below in the description. I want to point out Brad Hand. I want to point out Sir Anthony Dominguez. And Knebel worked himself out of a tough jam. He put himself in a tough jam, but he worked out of it. So I will give him credit there. I was sweating it out. I was uncomfortable. And I will still say that this bullpen is better than what they have been putting on display. But there are some guys that make me scratch my head. Every team has those guys, to be fair. But whenever Joe forces Familia in my way, I get a little bit more nervous and places start to sweat that you don't really love sweating that much. Jose Alvarado is another guy. I don't love the fact that every time he gets his number called, I'm wondering how many balls go to the backstop. And then once you already see that it's not his night, Pull him. He's one of those guys where he should have the quickest leash in the history of the world. There might be nights where you have to go to him, but you have to have a quick leash when he's all over the map and when he's getting rocked or when he's getting a ball four. Dude. Now, for the Phillies on the mound, this whole COVID list thing screwed everything up for me with our rotation and where we're at. Friday night, which is tonight, Gibson versus Kershaw. Can we get something from the savvy veteran? Saturday night, Ranger Suarez versus Walker Buehler. Oh, man. And then Sunday's a 4 o'clocker. We got constant 10s. Aaron Nola's on the mound there. So, I mean, I don't hate who's on the mound for the Phillies. It's just going to be a very tall task. And this offense does have professional hitters. Bryce Harper, Schwarber. I mean, they can do some damage. It's not impossible. Look, they've played Max Scherzer, and we've been pleasantly surprised with the long ball whenever Max Scherzer's on the mound. So if you can hit Max Scherzer, and it's not like something you do every single time, and it's not this sustainable thing because guys like Max Scherzer win more than they lose. They beat you down and they go through your lineup pretty easily more than they struggle. So I'm fully aware of statistically how that feels. I'm just saying it's not impossible to get to these guys. Tyler Anderson had a nice ERA before the Phillies, and then the Phillies smashed him around. Let's see. I'm feeling good right now about the Fightins after what I've seen on this West Coast swing. Am I an idiot? Some would say yes. Some would say yes. Am I dumb? Some would say yes. Some would say yes. But that's where we are today after this one. All right, we'll see how they respond to a win. If that even makes sense. It makes sense. It makes sense. Normally you say that after a loss. But how do you keep the thing going in a positive direction after a really emotional battle? And maybe this would keep them focused. If you win 7-3 or you win 7-1 and you blow them out, maybe you roll to the ballpark smelling yourself a little bit more than you would like to. Knowing how it went, knowing that you lost it and then you had to gain it back. Maybe there's a different level of focus where it's somewhat of a blessing in disguise, even though you never wanted to play out this way. There's a positive spin on it too. With that being said, everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Sports Talk with Broads, and I will see you next time.